drama does not play as core a part in our lives as it would have done for previous generations. If you go to a play and it's done properly, if the play is successful, if the drama is successful, you come away having felt something. Even if it's a vague sense of relief, if it's been a very heavy-going thing. And you feel almost drained, but at the same time, kind of good. Films tend not to do that as much, although they can. I mentioned in a lecture a few weeks back the Pixar film Up, where there's a section in the middle of that film which is just flashbacks of the old man's dead wife, and it's genuinely touching. It's quite saddening, and you do feel that kind of, and that's part of catharsis. We're being purified. Another time, did anyone go and have a barrel of laughs from beginning to end? One of the funniest films ever, The Passion of the Christ. I came out of that and I thought, bloody hell. That was catharsis. You could feel that kind of, it goes right through you. And so films don't do it that often, but a good play, if you see it, because the difference, of course, between a play and a film is that there are people in front of you. And if they do it properly and we suspend our disbelief, as Coleridge says, then it can have a very powerful, overwhelming emotional effect upon us. And this is what Aristotle was talking about with catharsis. It's difficult, though, to say what purification consists of. Does it mean that we should get rid of those emotions by watching the play? But surely not, because the point of the play is to inspire these emotions. One interpretation of catharsis is that it's for people who perhaps feel these emotions at the wrong time. Or perhaps it's for people who have an excess of these emotions. Again, Aristotle doesn't like excess. He doesn't like too little, he doesn't like too much. You've got to have that golden mean. And this does happen. We feel fear or pity or sadness in day-to-day lives, and it can disrupt our mental well-being. The drama, for Aristotle, is a way of allowing ourselves to have those emotions and to get them out, and to feel them in the correct way, to have them directed towards something, rather than sinking into melancholy, rather than being overcome with anxiety regularly. The drama has an effective healing purpose. Healer of Delos. Here, it's interesting that the main god who's in this is Apollo. Apollo is the god of healing. And the play itself can help heal any affliction we might be feeling mentally by drawing it out of us, by making it cathartic. And that's what cathartic is. It's that if something has a cathartic effect, it means it's purified. It's cleansed us, these feelings for us. So it's, again, this is the role we have when we're watching this play. We're meant to feel fear. We're meant to feel pity. We're allowed to. You can be flooded by it. Because otherwise it will come out in other ways. When you're doing your job. When you're driving. More often when you're drunk. So catharsis is one aspect. The reversal of the situation, peripeteia, and recognition or realization, anagnoresis or anagnorisis. These are parts of the plot itself. The most powerful elements of emotional interest in tragedy, peripeteia or reversal of the situation, and recognition scenes are part of the plot. Again, these are more of our elements of tragedy. Two parts then. Reversal of the situation, recognition, turn upon surprises. It's not that for his birthday Oedipus gets a gigantic cake with a stripper in, who happens to be his mum. It's a surprise which usually one would not want. But it's also a surprise for us. Well, pretty much every film now, since The Sixth Sense, it has to have a twist at the end. Which, in effect, stops films having twists at the end, because we know that each one does. The real twist would for a film to not have a twist at all, because we're used to twists now at the end. Either that, or do what they did in the 50s, where something would jump out at you and the wires under all your chairs have been wired up, so someone would press a button and it'd give you an electric shock. We can't do that anymore. So, hilarious hilarious though it was. Two parts then of the plot. A third part is a scene of suffering, pathos. We don't speak of pathos, it's where we get the word pathetic. When we think of pathetic, we usually mean it in a derogatory way, but pathetic really means inspiring pity. The scene of suffering is a destructive or painful action. So, these are our three parts of our plot. We're going back earlier, we've got our mimesis, which is the imitation. We've got the effects upon us, which is catharsis, pity and fear being purged. And within the plot itself, to inspire this catharsis, we've got peripeteia and anagnoresis, and pathos, the scene of suffering itself. So this is peripeteia. And now there is a more heart-rending story of affliction. We're a more awful swerve into the arms of torment. Oedipus, that proud head, that swerve into the arms of torment. That's the reversal of the situation. Oedipus was the king, and he says that whoever is responsible for the murder of King Laius, i.e. himself, although he didn't know this, will be banished, will become an exile, will become unclean, the lowest of the low. So from the highest of the high to the lowest of the low, that's a reversal of the situation. That's the fall from grace. Pride is important. Not proud, because pride can be considered an error or failing, a frailty. And the correct term for this is an hamartia, which is again, it's a dubious phrase, which we'll come back to, because it can mean one of two things. It can either mean a fault that you commit, a mistake you make, or it can mean a kind of inherent frailty, an inherent error. Anagnoresis, or agnoresis. My wife, what you have said has troubled me. My mind goes back, and something in me moves. He starts to remember. I mean, he really ought to have remembered early, because everyone keeps telling him, yes, you did it. You're the one responsible, but he's not quite getting it, because he's being blinded to it by his pride. But then he starts to remember. He starts that recognition, that realization. You get this kind of moments also in things like murder mysteries, where it's often called the denouement. This kind of where you tie all the ends together and you go, ah, the light comes on. Alas, all out, all known, no more concealment. O light, may I never look on you again, revealed as I am, sinful in my begetting, sinful in marriage, sinful in shedding of blood. There's a link here between, in this play, frequently, between light and truth. And we still say these things, don't we? The truth was brought to light, as if the truth was something physical that can be dragged out into the day. And what happens if you don't want to see the light of day, which is synonymous with truth? You blind yourself. Because he'd been blind before, he gouges out his eyes. It's a very kind of physical symbol of his mental block, his inherent frailty, his hamartia. Pathos results. Oedipus' wife, who is also his mother, Jocasta, hangs herself upon the realization of what she has done. To be fair, it was probably a good move, because just after she's hanged herself, Oedipus comes in with a sword, and it's not to cut her down with. He's about to slaughter her, even though she didn't know either. It's quite a misogynist culture. A strangled woman swinging before our eyes, the scene of suffering. Her dress was pinned with golden brooches, which the king snatched out and thrust from forearm's length into his eyes, as you shall see. This is important, as you shall see. We are being addressed here. The chorus again is guiding our emotion. The doors are opening. Yes, you shall see a sorry spectacle, that loathing cannot choose but pity. Enter Oedipus blind. So you cannot but feel pity, and therefore the scene of suffering creates pity and fear. We are purged. Other aspects. These are things within the plot, but the plot itself must have a kind of organic unity. It must be complete. There must be nothing extra. Again, nothing is accidental in a play. Nothing is just, oh, I'll just put that in for the sake of it, or at least not in a good play. Everything is working towards the achievement of the whole, of the magnitude, to making it all work. So the plot, being an imitation of an action, must imitate one action, and that a whole. The structural union